We will now give you some tips on how to prepare for an OG lesson. First, you need to make sure that you are able to navigate the M.A. Rooney Foundation website to print the lesson plans. If you need a refresher, go back and watch the M.A. Rooney website video. Something else to think about before you deliver an OG lesson is room setup. Where will your students sit? Will your students be close to you so they can see the cards? Can you see and hear them where you sit? Ideally, you want students sitting on a rug in the meeting area close to you. If you can, sit in a chair that elevates you enough so that all students can easily see your cards. When you transition to the SRS portion of the lesson, you need to think about how to position students' desks or tables to make sure that the smartboard or screen is visible. Are students' backs facing the screen, or are they directly looking at the screen? If students' backs are to the screen, it makes it difficult for them to easily check their work. You want students to be able to see you model the SRS and fluency portions of the lesson without difficulty, so have these projected on a screen with a document camera or on a smartboard. You also want to make sure that they have enough desk space to complete the SRS form. Here are some suggestions on how to keep your cards organized. Keep your cards in a container and store them in a location convenient for delivering the OG lesson, such as a shelf or space beside your carpet or rug area. Pull all cards being taught for that week. Separate your new cards from your review cards. When you move to lessons that include the blending drill, have your kindergarten basic deck cards separated into piles to make transitioning from visual to blending easier. Eventually, you will not need to have them separated once you know which piles they are going into, initial, middle, or end. Phoneme segmentation words should be reviewed by teachers to ensure the correct tapping of sounds. Have your blue or red hands ready for students to use at the rug or at their desks. Things to think about when using the red and blue hands are how to pass them out quickly and collect them quickly. Will students have their correct hand at their desk, or are they stored in another location for quick access? Think of a procedure that requires the least transition time. Continuing with some further teacher tips, be sure to look over the review and new words to read in the lesson plan. This will ensure that you are prepared with kid-friendly definitions of words for which students may not know the meanings. You also want to prepare invitations and extension ideas for new and review words to read, so students will have an opportunity to read the words several times to help build automaticity. Something else to think about is on what tool will you write these words? Will it be on a dry erase board, chart paper, or smartboard? And remember, whichever tool you choose, it needs to be large enough to write words in 2 columns, as well as enable you to have easy access to write the words sound by sound. A small dry erase board similar to what we used in our video demonstrations is not appropriate for whole class lessons, as it is difficult for the whole class to see. Let's move on to Fluency Passages. Fluency Passages should be copied ahead of time. Are you working with a team? Can team members take turns being responsible for copying the LNF or connected text for that week? Are you providing a copy for each student, or are you modeling the first day and providing a copy on the second day? Are you sending them home or keeping them in a binder in the classroom for students to practice? As you are just beginning your adventure into teaching a lesson, you may want to begin by creating an answer key on an SRS to ensure smooth delivery to students. You may also want to consider preparing an SRS ahead of time for the student who struggles with completing the SRS on their own. It is helpful to use a highlighter and write the correct responses for the student to trace over. This is only for those who really struggle at the beginning of the year. This is not something to do with all students and not to be used for a very long period of time. Only use for a very short time until the most at-need students are ready to complete the SRS on their own. Now you need to think about how you will pass out the SRS forms and the writing utensils to be used during the SRS portion of the lesson. Are you going to use pencils with no erasers or pens? You may want to consider having the SRS forms and writing utensils already on desks to save time when students transition from the meeting area to desks. Depending on your school or district policy on paper usage, you may want to laminate a set of SRS forms for students to reuse, or use a sheet protector to reduce paper waste. We do recommend at least once or twice a week having a hard copy for students to write on and submit, so that you are able to review any errors students are making. This will provide needed information to support them. The OG lessons on our website can be altered to fit your students' needs. So, for example, if you notice that students are struggling with reading and writing a particular pattern, include that pattern in the visual drill. Add more words with that pattern in the review words to read, and add that pattern to the auditory drill as well. You do not want to reteach the pattern. Just give them more exposure to it within your OG lesson and elsewhere during the day. The last thing we want to talk about is memory words. Memory words should be written on index cards or pre-printed prior to the lesson. Keep the new memory words and review memory words together with your other cards for your lesson. You should have the flash deck of previously taught memory words in a place that you can get to easily during your lesson. Here are some things to consider when you are sharing the memory word cards with students. Am I putting them on a document camera so that they are projected onto a screen where they will be large enough for everyone to see? Or am I holding the cards up? If holding the cards up, are they large enough for students to see? These are just a few thoughts to help you be most successful when you prepare to deliver OG lessons. This concludes the Preparing for an OG Lesson portion of training.